On Saturday, Murrayfield witnessed a new world record, but it wasn't the kind of record supporters were looking to see. 18 penalty attempts at goal, 13 of which were converted, and it ended in a defeat for Scotland. So Wales and England march on to Cardiff to contest the RBS Six Nations title. Welcome to the programme. We'll shortly have some reaction from that match at Murrayfield between Scotland and Wales. But in this week's programme we also turn the spotlight on Ayr, the new Scottish club champions. We have tries from the Scottish Cup quarter-final match between Selkirk and Melrose. And we also hear from the White Shark himself, who looks back on his rugby career. But let's begin with Scotland against Wales at a sellout Murrayfield, and a match that was ultimately ruined by the scrums and penalties. While the Welsh outfought Scotland in the scrum and referee Craig Joubert, goal kickers Lee Halfpenny and Greg Laidlaw took centre stage. The Wales fullback kicked 7 from 10, while the Scotland scrum half was on target with 6 out of 8. And Welsh hooker Richard Hibbard was the man to score the game's only try. One of the most frustrating test matches in recent times finished 28-18 to Wales. And Scotland's interim head coach Scott Johnson was one of many that was completely baffled.
All I can say is if you're trying to sell to the mass, you want a competition. We want a competition because we've got a good scrum, a quality scrum. We want one. We're not trying to avoid it. So the game, if it's true to its values, needs to be a competitive set piece, and we're all for that. I found it as frustrating as anyone out there today.
But that win sets Wales up for a cracking showdown in Cardiff against England this weekend, both of them going for the Six Nations title, while Scotland head for their own Paris finale. Let's go back and hear from both camps after an extraordinary Murrayfield match, starting with Duncan Weir, for whom it was an emotional first test start.
I had a wee tear rolling down my face when the anthem's finished, and that was just an immense feeling. And as soon as the whistle going, my head had to screw on and know that understand my roles and responsibilities throughout the team, and I couldn't get the emotions get the better of me.
I was pleased with the victory. I think to come here down me, Murrayfield's not the easiest place to come, and many good Welsh sides have come and lost. I thought that our pack was outstanding. Said to them, from a front five perspective, there were times when our accuracy let us down, but in terms of the ball carrying and their defensive qualities and set piece, I thought we looked really strong in the front five.
Frustrated, very annoyed that we've lost here at home, but too many penalties, far too many penalties in the game. On the whole, we struggled to get momentum from the scrum penalties, and that's probably why we come unstuck.
Yeah, I've been pretty pleased with the defence. Obviously, it's the first half against Ireland was very unlike us, but since then I think we've been well led by Jamie Roberts, and as I said, I think we didn't have a great deal of tackling to do today, but I think the percentage of tackles to how many times we turned the ball over was exceedingly high. We was turning them over at the contact area. I thought our post-tackle work was excellent, and obviously that goal line stance at end with 14 players was everything a defensive coach would want.
How critical will that be next week?
It's always critical in big games. As you boys all know, defence wins championships.
There was a lot of good moments, and then on the flip side of that there was a negative to follow, and it's just down to us to iron out the kind of negative moments and keep it as a high and keep the momentum and pressure on them and keep our kind of phase play going and really get into the game that way. There's been times that we've been our defence has been setting the momentum for us at times, and as a 10 we really like to drive the attack to build the momentum.
We're just hugely frustrated, just the way it went, and the referee made some decisions, and we're not here to blame him, and he made it hard for both teams. He never just made it hard for Scotland, just with the amount of penalties that were going on. And but we need to look within the squad and turn it around, because I think we can beat France next week.
I thought Joubert, handled it as well as he could. Really, it was a very difficult afternoon in that area. But again, I think we were disciplined, especially on the hit. And it's very hard to keep your profile when you lose the hit. And when the team goes early against you, it does put you on the back foot straight away. So again, really happy. There's certain things we can work on, obviously, but I'm happy with the way that we kept our discipline in particular.
I think boys will be looking forward to it. It's a great stadium to play in, great atmosphere, and you know, France will be under a lot of pressure. We can go there and get stuck in and try and get that third win in the championship, and you know, it'll make it a decent championship for us if we can do that.
I've really enjoyed my day today, and I just hope that I can have a few more days like today, because I really enjoyed it.
Duncan Weir has kept his place in the team to face France this weekend in a side that is largely unchanged from the squad which faced Wales. But the big surprise is the selection of uncapped Edinburgh lock Grant Gilchrist, who comes in place of the injured Richie Gray as Johnson looks to the future. Action on the show this week comes from Philip Hoch and the Scottish Cup quarter-final clash between National League underdog Selkirk and the cup holders Melrose. Stuart Cameron reports.
The first half's only try went to Callum Anderson of Melrose, following up this cheeky chip from Andrew Skeen. The hosts kept in touch with penalties from Mike McVie, including this one from the touchline, but both Skeen and Joe Helps contributed to the Melrose total, which gave them a narrow lead at the break. There were some memorable moments too, including Fraser Harkness's hit on Bruce Stick. The power of the Melrose pack gave them their second try as they trundled over the Selkirk line. Gary Holborn awarded the try. But the decisive score went to Melrose. A speculative kick ahead from Fraser Thompson caught Selkirk napping. Thompson said thanks very much and continued up to the 22. Alan Dodds was tackled by Harkness, the ball went loose, and there was Ross Ovens to kick ahead and get the touchdown.
It's cup rugby, you know, today proved, you know, what a great spectacle it is, you know, lower side against a higher side, you know, and we know the teams that we'll be playing against, we know how they operate, and it's a one-off game, so bring it on.
Melrose now make the short trip along to Gala for the semi-final, while Ayr go to Dundee, both matches on March the 30th. And we turn our attention this week to Ayr, who've got the double in their sights. We kick off with head coach Kenny Murray, who looks back on the last 5 years he's been there and what the club has done to build on the foundations left by Craig Redpath.
Ayr had been up there in the top sort of four of Scottish rugby the few years before I arrived, and I think finished second the year that the season before I came. So they were always there and thereabouts. And then when I came in there, we took the step further and won the league. So, and we kept pretty much the same players. Got bottom one or two, and we sort of tried to change the rugby a little bit how we played. So we made a big step forward, and then I've just never looked back since. I've always been, apart from last year, we've always been there and thereabouts at top 2 or 3 of the Premiership. And that was our goal every year, is to always be up there fighting for competition, and particularly the BNI Cup. You know, when it was sort of three teams in the BNI Cup, we wanted to be one of those 3 teams in there. So we've kept our place well, I think, in the top part of Scottish rugby.
2 of Ayr's star performers this season have been the Scotsman brothers, Craig and Kerr, who made the switch from Glasgow Hawks. Craig has also starred for the Scotland Club International side, who beat their Irish counterparts 30 points to 18, also at Millbrae. Craig tells us here what life has been like at Ayr.
I joined obviously this year, so it was obviously an ambition for me to sort of step into the British and Irish Cup, and I know they were disappointed last year from not getting through to it, so this year we set ourselves that target, trying to win the league, British and Irish Cup and even the Cup, so at the moment it's all going to plan. So
in the past, the Ayr have used Southern Hemisphere imports to help drive the club up to the top of the Scottish club game and develop interest in rugby across Ayrshire. But now Kenny Murray tells us they're very much focused on developing their own talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this year in particular, you know, we've played a lot of games this year and there's not been any non-Scottish qualified players in it. Probably our hooker, Hayden, who's from New Zealand, he came over midway through the season, and Denford, our prop from Zimbabwe, who's here as part of an international exchange. But apart from that, all the players are Scottish qualified, which is great. I mean, one of the big goals of Billy McCarthy, their president, is to get a Ayr team on the pitch who have all come through the Ayr youth section. So that gives you, you know, their sort of motivation as they move forward as a club. But the guys that come in and have done really well, particularly Damien Kelly in the past too, and Glenn Tippett, who made significant contributions to the club. But you know, we want to try and develop homegrown players, whether it be from Ayr and Glasgow and other areas, and give them the opportunity to play at the higher level.
Success certainly helps, and Ayr uncorked the champagne with victory over Curry at Millbrae. They needed Stirling to beat Gala on the same day, and County did the business at Bridgehoch. And you can see what it meant to the club as they brushed aside Curry with a superb second half performance to win 39-13.
Callum Forster, Premier Division champions. How's it feel?
Oh, it's great. I mean, this is what we've been working towards all season, and to finally have it in the bag now, it's a relief, but it's great to be here today and be part of that today. For the club, it's great. I mean, this is where we want to be. The goal at the start of the year was BNI Cup. The club are gutted to have missed out on that this year, but once we got in a position to win the league today, that was the main focus the last couple of weeks, is to go out and finish the job off.
Just time in the programme now for our 5 quick questions with Scottish internationalists. Last week we brought you the bear, this week it's the white shark. John Jeffrey.
Scotland B in those days were playing in Southern Ireland, and the South were playing at Mansfield against Australia. And the selectors let the South get first pick of the players, so I played for the South that day, and we were the only team to beat Australia on a Saturday on that tour. We beat them in a lovely dreich, pouring rain day up at Mansfield Park, 9-3 I think the score was, or 9-6, and then went up to Murrayfield the next day where they announced the team in the change room, and I got my first cap. My memory of that day, my main memory of that day was singing the national anthem beforehand. In those days, we would sing Flower of Scotland to ourselves, even though the tune that was getting played was God Save the Queen. And then once the song was finished, you would break up and run away. But I sang it that quickly, I broke up and ran away halfway through God Save the Queen, so I was seen running across the pitch by myself, so I was the first black mark. I remember Gary Calder bawling at me to say what an idiot I made of myself. So that was my first recollection. We'll not talk about the score because we got absolutely gubbed by them. But I would go down to Kelso and watch rugby down there as a youngster. So in terms of rugby, my hero there would be a chap by the name of George Fairbairn, who was an outstanding fullback, centre-stroke fullback. He played fullback, who was the same era as Andy Irvine and Bruce Hay. Now George went south, obviously for the money, but seemingly because he saw his road blocked to the rugby union with Andy Irvine, although a lot of respected journalists and respected rugby people tell me he was actually better than Andy and Bruce put together. And as we all know, he then went down to forge a hugely successful career in rugby league, both playing and coaching-wise. My greatest memory probably is winning Melrose Sevens for the first time. We went up to Melrose and we played Wasps, who had a great team in those days, in the semi-final. It went to extra time in the semi-final, and I was lucky enough I had nothing all tournament, and I played in a great team. The other forwards were Eric Paxson and Gary Calder, and in the back line was Bob Hogarth, Andrew Kerr, Ewan Common and Roger Baird, and I basically got carried in that tournament, but I had the privilege of scoring the extra time try that got us through the final. Bob Hogarth made a couple of breaks and gave me a pass which for once I held on to and scored. I think it was a swan dive, double pike into the corner. And then we played Racing Metro in the final. It was full of all the French stars of the day, and also managed to score 2 tries then. So that was my greatest rugby memory. It was Melrose Sevens, winning Melrose Sevens. The 2 that I found hardest to play against was John Hall, the number 6 for England, because he was an immovable force. But probably the most difficult opponent was Phil Matthews from Ireland, who I played against regular time. He ended up being a good friend of mine, and I couldn't believe at the end of 1989, 5 Nations series, when they picked the Lions, the number 6s were Mike Teague and John Jeffrey, whereas both of us thought that Phil Matthews should have been the stick-on one. I'm glad I didn't pick him, mind, but yeah, he was my hardest opponent. My favourite player was somebody I ironically got dropped for. After 2 caps, I got dropped, and I was replaced. I was told I was only dropped because they wanted to bring a captain in. They brought David Leslie in to captain the team. To me, he was a fearless leader. He was ruthless. He would throw his body around to the cause of the Scottish team, and I fortunate enough to play with him in the South of Scotland jersey, and appreciated then how great a player he was. Sadly, he had too many injuries as a player, or else he could have been Scotland's first centurion number of caps. But without a doubt, he was the best Scottish player I ever saw or played with.
So that's it for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time to look back on Scotland's entire Six Nations Championship, their first under Scott Johnson. We'll also turn the focus to Glasgow's bid for success in the Rabo Direct Pro 12. And we'll catch up with the winners and losers, those who've been promoted and relegated in the Scottish Club Rugby game. Join us then.